Over the past few days, we've finally seen the release of the Steam Machine. I have to admit, I'm a little jealous of the people who got their hands on one before everyone else. But it's easy to see why this thing has sparked so much debate. It costs nearly twice as much as some gaming PCs with even better performance. That immediately raises one question: is it actually worth the price? A lot of people have also questioned Valve's claim that it can deliver smooth 4K 60 FPS gaming,
enabling 4K gaming at 60 frames per second with FSR.
And others aren't happy that it only comes with single-channel memory. So that got me thinking, if I only spend half as much, can I build a gaming PC that's even more powerful? Let's find out. But before we get into the performance, let's talk about one of the things the community loved most about the Steam Machine: its size. The original system has a volume of just 3.1 liters. It's basically a perfect little cube. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a case that compact, so instead I went with the T40 case, which has a volume of around 7 liters. You can usually find one for about $50 on AliExpress. Sure, it's not as tiny as the original Steam Machine, but it's still compact enough to sit in a living room without taking up much space. Valve did something pretty clever with the original hardware. They used a mobile APU to keep power consumption, heat, and overall size to a minimum. I can't really compete with that approach, so I decided to go in a different direction. For the CPU, I chose an Intel Core i5-12400F, which cost me about $130. It also has 6 cores and 12 threads, although its boost clock is a little lower than the custom chip Valve used. The biggest difference is philosophy. Valve intentionally tuned the Steam Machine to prioritize lower temperatures and quieter operation, which means it will throttle performance under heavy gaming loads to keep heat under control. You might be wondering why I chose an Intel CPU instead of AMD. After all, Steam OS was originally designed with AMD hardware in mind, and that used to be true, but that's no longer the case. Recent versions of Steam OS, including Steam OS 3.8, have added proper support for Intel processors, so choosing Intel is no longer a disadvantage. Another limitation of the original Steam Machine is its single-channel memory, so I'm using two 8GB sticks instead, which cost me $57, and I think you guys are smart enough to know exactly why I picked 2 sticks instead of 1. Finding the right motherboard turned out to be harder than I expected. I searched both eBay and AliExpress using the socket type, then sorted everything by price. Most mini ITX boards were selling for around $150, and honestly, that's a little more than I wanted to spend. My goal wasn't to buy the fanciest motherboard. I'd rather put more of the budget into the CPU and GPU, where it actually makes a noticeable difference. After a bit more searching, I found a used B660i Mini ITX DDR4 motherboard on eBay for just $60. At that price, it was an easy decision. The board was still in great condition, with no obvious signs of damage or previous repairs. More importantly, it's more than capable of getting the full performance out of the i5-12400F. Now let's talk about storage. The Steam Machine originally came in 3 different configurations, and the biggest difference between them was SSD capacity. I think most people would have chosen the 512GB version and upgraded later when SSD prices came down. So that's exactly what I wanted to replicate. I started looking for the cheapest 512GB SSD I could find. Luckily, it didn't take long. I found one for just $40. Next comes the graphics card. Just like a modern game console, Valve used a custom AMD APU in the Steam Machine. That means the CPU and GPU are integrated into a single chip. Using the specifications published by Valve, along with data from TechPowerUp, I tried to find the closest standalone graphics card I could. After quite a bit of searching, I finally found one. The RX 660 is almost a perfect match. Its CUDA, well, technically stream processor count, RAM capacity, memory bandwidth, and several other specifications are remarkably close to Valve's custom GPU. It's probably the closest match you're going to find. That said, it's not identical. If you look closely, there are still a few differences. For example, the RX 660 is based on AMD's RDNA2 architecture, while Valve's custom chip uses RDNA3. That gives the Steam Machine's GPU a small efficiency advantage, roughly around 5% in terms of performance per watt. So no, there isn't a consumer graphics card that's an exact match. But considering the performance, the physical size, and the price, I think the RX 660 is about as close as you can realistically get. And the best part is that it fits inside my case perfectly. I picked this one up on eBay for $165. For the CPU cooler, I went with a low-profile white cooler to match the color of the motherboard. It cost me $15. And honestly, that's more expensive than I was hoping for. To connect the graphics card to the motherboard, I also needed a PCIe riser cable. That was another $10. My job now is simply to install it securely without putting too much stress on the cable or bending it too sharply. The last piece of the puzzle is the power supply. Because of the limited space inside the case, I chose a 600-watt FSP SFX power supply. It fits the case perfectly and provides more than enough power for the entire system. I paid about $35 for it. So after adding everything up, this build ended up costing me a total of $562. Alright, moment of truth. Let's power it on. Oh no, that's not a good sign. The system powers on for just a few seconds and then shuts itself off. For a second, I thought I'd already broken something, so I went back and checked all of the modular power cables. Turns out one of them wasn't fully seated. I plugged it back in. Oh my god, we've got a display. What a relief. Getting the same interface and experience as a Steam machine is actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is install Steam OS. It's no different from installing any other operating system. All you need is a USB drive and another computer to create the installer. The process is fairly simple, so I won't spend too much time walking through it. And here's the result. The system boots straight into the Steam OS interface, just like a real Steam machine. I also checked the hardware information and everything was detected correctly right away. Alright, now for the part I've been looking forward to the most, the performance tests. Since I don't actually own an original Steam machine, I'll be comparing my results with benchmark footage from well-known YouTubers like ETA Prime to see how close this build really gets. Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077. I'm running the game at 1080p, ultra settings with FSR set to auto. And this is kinda crazy. My mini-gaming PC is averaging around 130 FPS. Meanwhile, the Steam machine manages only around 70 to 80 frames per second. Yep, the difference is real. Just to make sure this wasn't a fluke, I bumped the resolution up to 1440p. As expected, my frame rate dropped to around 100 frames per second, but even then, the performance gap barely changed. The Steam machine still sits at roughly 65 to 70 frames per second. At this point, I think it's fair to call this a decisive win for my mini-gaming PC. To make sure that wasn't just a one-off result, let's move on to another game, The Witcher 3. This time, I'm running at 1440p ultra settings with FSR set to quality. My mini-gaming PC averages around 60 FPS, but this time, the win goes to Valve. Using the same settings, the $1,000 Steam machine manages between 70 and 80 frames per second. Both GPUs are pinned at 100% utilization, so this is a pretty fair comparison. That means the score is now tied 1-1. The next game I'm testing is Elden Ring. I'm running it at 1440p on high settings. This time, I'm leaving FSR disabled because it doesn't really make sense here. The game is capped at 60 frames per second anyway, so there's no point comparing frame rates beyond that, and of course the Steam machine is also locked to the same 60 FPS limit. So instead, let's look at GPU usage. My RX 6600 is sitting at around 90% utilization. Meanwhile, the Steam machine's GPU hovers around 84%. There is a difference, but honestly, it's not a very large one. One thing I do want to point out is frame consistency. Throughout my gameplay, the mini PC I built barely suffered from any noticeable frame drops. Overall, I'd say my mini PC delivers a very balanced performance and holds up surprisingly well against the Steam machine. One thing I was really curious about was Valve's claim that the Steam machine could deliver 60 FPS at 4K. So naturally, I had to see if my build could do the same. First up is CS2. Running at 4K on low settings, the frame rate sits at around 200 FPS. That's an incredible result, especially for a compact gaming PC. Next is Tomb Raider. This time I'm using the highest graphics settings. The frame rate hovers between 45 and 50 FPS. So while it doesn't quite reach the 60 FPS target, it's surprisingly close. Overall, I'd call this project a success. For roughly half the price, I managed to build a PC that delivers performance very close to the Steam machine. Of course, building it yourself does come with a few trade-offs. The biggest advantage is flexibility. You can upgrade or replace the hardware whenever you want. The downside is that you lose some of the seamless console-like features, such as HDMI CEC integration and the polished out-of-the-box experience that Valve provides, but that's the trade-off. So, what do you think of this mini gaming PC? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.